Unfortunately, there are people in life that do wear rose-colored glasses. They do build their emotions up on an idea, and then they only want to allow in anything that is consistent with that idea. And anything that's not consistent with that idea, they will block out. And that's why some famous guy said that you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. That means that there are always going to be some people that are going to be fooled, and it's those people. These guys aren't even scared of us.
I know. Yeah.
Well, the path is skinny. I just want to help you guys to see through some of this stuff, and I know some of you guys see it. And we talk a lot about this, but in this one we're going to be specific about how to recognize these people that are making these videos as shills. You know, there's ram pumpers, which are working for the institutions. There are those that are connected with them, that are part of their groups. And then there's the independent pumpers, and you can call them shills. But they're independent in that they have a similar motive. And, you know, this is not about having any issue with people running for-profit blogs or websites or whatever. It's just that when the line is crossed between putting out clearly factual, verifiable information and crossing the line, making something sound like something it really isn't for the purpose of promoting your activity, then that makes you, you know, you've crossed the line, and you clearly have revealed yourself as having an agenda and being someone that does business in that way. So I don't do business that way, obviously. You know that if you're a longtime follower, I don't believe in that. On places like marketplaces like eBay, you know, maybe even Amazon, that are well established over a decade, they have developed certain boundaries. And the boundaries are this, that it's understood that because you're over the internet, you can't really see the item, which is the case in this retire abroad sphere. You can't really see the item. You're going by what other people are telling you. So really, it's exactly similar. So they've developed these boundaries designed to have complete transparency and honesty in their listings. I learned from years ago, over a decade ago, from selling on eBay, that in all other spheres of my life, from that day forward, I've always made sure that I always listed all of the flaws of whatever it is that I'm selling. So I think that that's a good something to compare to, you know, something to say, well, this is the ideal. This is what we should be using as a comparison, an ideal, not the paradigm that it's okay if you have a business to only tell you, you know, the good things. That's two different ways of looking at things, and I'm in the first camp. And that's why I'm making this video. So I've already told you quite a bit, and you can recognize them just based on that. But here's a little bit more help. The first thing out of the three is that, well, you know, as we just said, everything is wonderful. You know, the item has no flaws. Everything is perfect. I mean, there's nothing wrong with telling you all the good things, but then you got to, you know, go over here and say, okay, well, what is it that I'm not seeing that I need to know? And, you know, tell me. So you're not seeing any of that. You know, you'll see, especially in the individual sellers and business people and pumpers, I've seen them where they will say things like, well, I've told you all the good stuff, so what's the other side of the story? And they'll just really briefly just kind of, and how it's done is what you need to focus on. How the other side of it is presented is that it's kind of swept under the rug and kind of minimized to the greatest extent possible. So other examples of everything is wonderful. They'll say things like, yeah, the internet is better than my city back in the States, you know, Atlanta or whatever the city is. Now, I didn't even live in a big city in the States, and I always had the most perfect internet I've ever had ever since moving abroad. I'm not complaining about the internet. I'm making a video about the balance and imbalance and how to recognize shills and pumpers. Along those lines, when you hear people telling you that the place they're in has better infrastructure than the States, that's a red flag, okay? That's all I wanted to say. The other thing is, the food's cheap, the food's cheap. And the food may very well be cheap. You'll see them talking about food as in cost of going out to eat. But when they refer to cost of going out to eat, they're always talking about $20, $15, $20, $25.
When that
$30.
they eat, you mean? That they go out to eat?
Yeah, of course they're referring to themselves and what they spend. And to them, that's cheap. And that's, of course, relative. But if you're gonna put out a blog or a video or something talking about how cheap a place is, eating out for $20, $25, $30 to people that are, you know, considering living somewhere cheap isn't that cheap. I mean, I've made other videos showcasing how you can eat in excellent restaurants for around $10 to $15 in the state with excellent presentation, excellent environment, and excellent pricing. So
excellent service.
That doesn't really, you know, to me, if I had never been abroad and I was watching a video or reading a blog and they said, oh, the food's cheap, and then they talked about going out to eat for $20, $25, $30, I'd be like, huh? I mean, I can do that here. Okay, so number two. Number two is, again, these three are related, and it kind of intermeshes with it, is they talk out of both sides of their mouth. And what do I mean by that? What that means is when they make these fabulous statements like there's no crime, they know that they don't want to sound like a pumper, so they will attempt, it's a feeble attempt at compensating for their irrational exuberance, let's just call it. It's a feeble attempt at compensating. So what they'll do is they'll talking out of both sides of your mouth means they'll say there's no crime over here, but then they'll turn around over here and say, well, there is a little bit of crime, but it's only over here by Feria Libre, or it's only over here in this neighborhood, or there's no violent crime, you know. So incidentally, no names mentioned, but you know, because I'm not picking on any particular person, because they're all over the internet. It has nothing to do with a specific city or a specific set of pumpers. They're all over. They're in Mexico, they're in Portugal, they're in Cuenca, Ecuador. They're all over. That's why I made this video, so you can recognize them. So ironically, the same week that one of these shills made a video saying how there was no crime, or it was only in the Mercado area, it's only in this neighborhood, the very same week there was a post in the local, I couldn't orchestrate these kinds of things better if I had some sort of big hand, Wizard of Oz hand in the sky trying to orchestrate these things. There's no way I could make it any better than real life. These expats on this portal within the same city of these pumpers came out and put a post saying, I got burglarized, I got burglarized last night, and the burglars left my door open and my dog ran out. And you know what, she would have never made that post, because you don't see the posts, but she wanted her dog back. She was concerned about her dog. She wasn't complaining about being burglarized, because her dog was the main focus, that it ran out the door. And she wanted the dog back, and she was making the posts trying to appeal to people to help her find her dog. And again, if it wasn't for that, she would have never made the post. And the point is that you just don't hear about it. And to me, I don't care how people say, well, there's no violent crime. To me, breaking and entering is violent. You're trespassing in someone's property and stealing this stuff. Now, I understand that the definition, violent, somebody's not doing something to your bodily, but it's still a violent act. It's not something that you want to really sweep under the rug.
We've talked to many expats, Frank, along the way when we used to live in Cuenca, Ecuador. They were so upset because they got pickpocketed from her cell phone, and it happened to her twice. Yeah. And it's not a little thing when this happens to you, because you kind of feel minimizing crime. Yeah, minimizing crime. Also another thing they'll do is they will default to statistics. This is really big red flag. The number one thing you need to know about that is that the only people that are going to get conned by that are other people that go by the same standards. And so if you don't automatically understand that when you leave the U.S., a lot of things aren't orderly or kept in the same way that you're used to, okay? If there was a statistic, it isn't being kept, and there's no way to retrieve it. So you're not going to know, and these people know that. So, and that's why they say things like that, because they know you're not going to really be able to confirm
anything.
Another thing they say about crime is they like to compare to the U.S., to the most violent cities in the U.S.
Right, you're right. Good point. They're comparing to the most violent cities.
They say go to Detroit. Go to Chicago.
Bring up, you know.
Oh my gosh.
It isn't automatic that the crime is way higher in the States. It's just not so. There's plenty of crime in the States, though. I'm not trying to minimize that. So they'll refer to those. Now, this is a little bit more personal, meaning that they will label you and your material as anecdotal. Now, this word anecdotal is designed to make it sound as if it's just a one-time thing that happened to you and now you're making videos. Well, I've got news for you. If you're new to the channel and haven't subscribed yet, we've been making videos like this for going on 9 years. Not only do we make videos, we write books and publications, and we go beyond that. And the thing is that you can see historically how somebody has said and done things, what they really believe, and what kind of a person they are. So this word anecdotal is designed to gloss over people that are wanting to tell you the truth. And these kinds of things will only work with those that aren't interested in the truth. Unfortunately, there are people in life that do wear rose-colored glasses. They do build their emotions up on an idea, and then they only want to allow in anything that is consistent with that idea. And anything that's not consistent with that idea, they will block out. And so that's why some famous guy said that you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. That means that there are always going to be some people that are going to be fooled, and it's those people. You know what, with this information, you're going to be able to go all over the internet now, because the internet is just swamped with this kind of heavy. Okay, so number 3. All right, so we've covered the everything is wonderful part. We've covered the talking out of both sides of your mouth part, and the third part is, so this is intertwined with the talking out of both sides of your mouth, where you know, you're saying your everything is wonderful thing, but at the same time you're trying to compensate and not sound like it, and so you make statements that sound like, well, yeah, there is a little bit of that. And that would be, we know of people that are living on $1,000. Oh, we know of people that are renting for $300, $350, but they themselves aren't doing any of that. And you may see them catching themselves too. If anyone corrects them, they'll go back and erase what they said and change it, and say, whereas they were saying, oh, you know, food's cheap here and you can eat out for $15, $20, $25, $30 an hour. And if anybody calls them on it, they'll go back and say, well, we know you can eat out for $7.
You said an hour, hon. You can eat for $25, $30 an hour.
Oh, 25.
Here in Italy, that'd be an expensive meal, because they stay at the dinner table for 4 hours.
Well, if that's what you earn, then yeah, you're working an hour for going to eat out.
Yeah,
but
really.
Anyway, no, that's just, thanks for catching me. But the point here is that they'll say, yeah, you can do these amounts here, but we're not doing that.
But you never see them eating this $5 and $7 or $8 meals.
But even $5 to $7 is on the high end. For example, in Ecuador, where
for Ecuador it is.
Ecuador,
yeah.
You know, it's not the high. You know, I mean, for generally speaking, 5 to 7 would be the top end. So 25, 20, 30, that's way up there. But you'll also hear the Rams do these kinds of things. They'll say, oh, we know of people that are living on under 1,000. We know of people that are renting for $350 or whatever, or under 400. You know, but they themselves aren't doing it and won't be doing it anytime soon. And again, this is not about any, you know, any specific person, and we're just making a point here. I was recently on one of these pumping blogs where the catch title was "Retire Cheap Under 1,000" or something in Portugal, and all of the elements that I'm describing in this video were there. They were saying all the nice things, and then they would say, but I don't want to just tell you the good parts, here's the not so good parts. And it was really short and it was really minimized. But the part I wanted to focus on was, it was trying to lure people in with how cheap it was, but it came out that he really wasn't the guy that was frugal. He was saying, you know, and I know of a couple that And I know of someone that rents for $375, you know, and you come to find out you really can't retire in Portugal, quote unquote, cheap, because he had a disclaimer, well, you know, you can't do this in the Algarve, it's already too high there, and you can't do it in Lisbon, it's already too high there. So it turns out that he was really kind of excluding all of the nice areas that had already been, you know, are already in a bubble. And so he was really kind of going outside of those areas. You know, he had that way down in his blog, and he was kind of not really disclosing it until much later. It gave the impression, the reader, the impression that you're going to be able to, quote unquote, go to Portugal. The reason why I'm saying this is because people have said that you can go an hour out of New York and, and it's cheap. So
It is.
yeah, so I mean, it's not really valuable, and it's got these elements that we're discussing. And then the other thing was about things like utilities. It turns out the writer himself lives in a big 4,000 square foot house, but he's telling people that their electric bill is going to be €50. Now, your electric bill is not going to be €50 in a 4,000 square foot house.
Not in Europe.
Not even in Cuenca, Ecuador. And so what he's really doing is he's talking out of both sides of his mouth, jumping from one side to the other, saying, you know, if you're frugal, you can get a small apartment. Your electric bill, I doubt your electric bill is going to be $50 through the winter. You know, but anyway, they just have these elements where they're just jumping back and forth. They don't have any foundation. They're kind of unstable, and they're going back and forth from one side to the other, making it sound like it's all one thing, but it's really not. So, and the reasons for that people do these are they have their own agendas, whether it's a personal, individual, business agenda. Again, there's nothing wrong with the idea of being in business or a website. That's not the issue. Don't confound or confuse. Let's not do that. It's about how they go about it. It's an unethical way of going about it. So that's how you're going to see right through these shills, pumpers, and ram groups. If you weren't able to do it before, you can definitely do it now. Thanks for coming to our channel, and let us know if there's anything else you'd like to, other kind of content you'd like to hear on our channel.
Ciao.
Bye.